Why should I care about colon cancer?
Okay, Tong, this is you. Now, if we start in the middle of your chest, you see your heart and lungs. Going down below that, you see the stomach, which empties into the small intestine. Now, surrounding the small intestine is the colon. And I bet you're wondering, what exactly does the colon do? Well, that's a good question, Tong. The main function of the colon is to absorb water from indigestible food before it passes from the body. So what exactly is the colon made up of? Well, if we take a closer look at the structure of the colon, we see that it's made up of epithelial cells, just like the cells that make up your skin. Now these cells make up the main functional unit, which are pockets called crypts. Let's look even closer at the structure of an individual crypt. At the very beginning of a crypt are special cells that are dividing called stem cells. As the cells divide, they turn into epithelial cells. Those cells keep moving and then eventually die. Now we know what the colon does, so what exactly is cancer? Normally, the cells in your colon are a single organized layer of regular epithelial cells. However, trouble starts when these cells grow more than they're supposed to, but they still look like happy, healthy cells. This is called hyperplasia. The other thing that can go wrong is when cells are still dividing normally, but instead of looking like regular cells, they look abnormal. This is called dysplasia. At this point, mild forms of hyperplasia or dysplasia are not yet cancer. As the hyperplasia and dysplasia get more severe though, we get a tumor which is called a polyp in the colon. A polyp isn't cancer yet. However, a polyp can go on to become cancer. If the cancer gets severe enough, it can send cancer cells into the bloodstream to make tumors in the rest of the body. This invasive structure is called a carcinoma and is just a fancy way of saying cancer. Cells can become a cancer when they get mutations in DNA. There are two different types of mutations that can happen in DNA. The first type is called a sporadic mutation, and as the name implies, occurs randomly while the DNA is being copied. The second type of mutation you get from either mom, dad, or both. This kind of mutation is inherited and called a germline mutation. When cells get mutations that are sporadic, germline, or a combination of the two, colon cancer may result. So what puts you at risk for getting one of these mutations? Well, one of the biggest risk factors is whether or not your family has a history of colon cancer. Part of that comes from those germline mutations that I mentioned earlier. Your diet is also something that can put you at risk for colon cancer. Carcinogens are things that cause DNA to get a mutation and get cancer. When you smoke cigarettes or eat food with carcinogens, the cells of the colon will be exposed to these harmful chemicals and are now more likely to get a mutation. If we look at Grandpa, he will tell us that the biggest risk for colon cancer is time. Each cell division has a small chance of making a mistake in DNA replication. Since our colon replaces all of its cells every 4 to 5 days, more cell divisions means a greater chance of DNA mutations. So how does colon cancer relate to you, Tom? Although you are still young and less likely to have colon cancer now, many of your older family members are at the age where colon cancer starts to become an issue. Each year in the United States, there are 150,000 new cases of colon cancer and an additional 50,000 people that pass away from colon cancer. Everyone has a 5% lifetime risk of getting colon cancer. However, nearly 50% of everyone in the US will get a colon polyp in their lifetime. So what can you and your family do to prevent colon cancer? As with most cancers, early detection through screening is important for prevention and can save lives. For colon cancer, it's best to see a doctor and schedule a colonoscopy around age 50. Colonoscopies, although not very glamorous, are important because the doctor is able to look inside your colon using a camera connected to a monitor to see whether or not colon polyps are present. Now let's take a look at a real colonoscopy. Overall, Tong, why should you care about colon cancer? Well, it's because colon cancer is a very preventable disease and it can take away the people that you're going to want to spend your future moments with. You want them there for things like graduations, weddings, additional members of the family, vacations to Panama City Beach, puppies, awkward pauses, kittens, Game of Thrones, ice cream, and especially Cousin Madhu. So what do you think now, Tong?
Wow, that is fascinating. I do care.